The forgotten subway. It was a foggy autumn evening when I convinced my best friend Alex to stay over at my place for the night. We were both just 10 years old at the time, and my parents often worked late, leaving me alone with nothing to do except watching television or reading. That night, Alex brought over his favorite board game, Monopoly, and we set up in my dimly lit living room, the air crisp with the scent of the falling leaves outside. But what started as an innocent sleepover soon turned into a night of unimaginable terror. "Hey," I said, after a long pause, "you ever hear about the old subway?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "You mean the one they shut down decades ago?" "Yeah," I nodded. "I heard it's still there, just sitting underground. They say if you go deep enough, you'll find stuff no one was meant to see." Alex hesitated, then grinned. "You want to go check it out?" It was the kind of idea only two reckless 10-year-olds would have. We grabbed flashlights and headed out into the night, sneaking past my backyard fence and slipping into the forest that led toward the city's forgotten infrastructure. The wind howled through the trees as we made our way through the thick underbrush, our breath visible in the cold air. By the time we found the entrance, the night was eerily silent. The trees surrounding the tunnel seemed to bend inward, as if whispering secrets to one another. The iron gate, rusted and twisted, stood slightly ajar as though someone, or something, had forced its way in recently. Strange, deep scratches marred the metal, as if clawed hands had raked through it, desperate to get in, or out. Some of the grooves were fresh, exposing raw metal beneath the rust, while others were old and corroded, as if whatever had made them had been trying, failing, and trying again for years. The old subway tunnel gaped before us, its rusted iron gate slightly ajar, as if inviting us in. Alex and I exchanged glances before stepping inside, our flashlights cutting through the suffocating darkness. The air was thick with dust, the scent of damp concrete and rust filling our nostrils. We walked along the abandoned tracks, our footsteps echoing down the long corridor. "This place is creepy as hell," Alex whispered. I was about to respond when a noise stopped me mid-step. A distant clatter. It wasn't just a noise, it was rhythmic, like something tapping methodically against the tunnel walls. Tap, 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 almost as if it knew we were there. Then, the sound stopped. An unnatural silence filled the tunnel, pressing against my ears like a vacuum, as if all sound had been drained from the world. It felt suffocating, an oppressive weight settling over us, making it hard to breathe. My heartbeat thundered in my chest, deafening in the absence of any other noise. It was as if something unseen was watching, waiting, just beyond the reach of our flashlights. We froze. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. Alex nodded slowly, his flashlight shaking in his grip. The sound had come from deep within the tunnel, too far for us to see. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as we strained to listen. Then, another noise closer this time, a dragging sound. It wasn't the sound of debris or wind, it was deliberate, wet, as though something heavy and lifeless was being pulled across the concrete. The air turned thick, and a rancid metallic scent seeped through the tunnel. It wasn't just the stench of rust, it was something older, decayed, lingering in the damp air like the breath of something ancient and unseen. The foul odor clung to my throat, making it hard to swallow, as if the very walls of the tunnel had absorbed centuries of death and despair. There was something unsettlingly familiar about it, a mix of rotting wood, stagnant water, and something else, something sickly sweet, like decomposing flesh hidden just out of sight. It wasn't just the stench of rust, it was something older, decayed, lingering in the damp air like the breath of something ancient and unseen. I swallowed hard. "We should go back." Alex nodded again, but neither of us moved. It was as if our feet were glued to the damp concrete beneath us. Then, just beyond the reach of our flashlight beams, something moved. A shadow. Tall, slender, unnaturally still. Its form was indistinct, flickering, as though it didn't fully exist in our world. Its head tilted, jerky and unnatural, as if struggling to hold its shape. And then, it moved, gliding toward us without a sound. The air around it seemed to distort, bending the dim light in unnatural ways. A sudden, icy chill swept through the tunnel, making my breath come out in visible puffs. The weight of the atmosphere changed thicker, heavier, like something unseen was pressing down on us. suffocating the space between the walls. For a brief moment, I thought I saw a face empty, hollow, its mouth stretched open in a soundless scream. And then, as we watched in frozen terror, it took a step forward. Alex let out a strangled gasp, yanking my arm. "Run!" We turned and sprinted back toward the entrance, our lungs burning as we stumbled over debris. Behind us, the dragging sound quickened. Closer. Closer. Something was chasing us. Just as we reached the rusted gate, Alex shoved me forward. "Go!" I turned back, but he was staring at something behind me, his eyes wide with pure horror. I followed his gaze. There was nothing there. But I swear, in the corner of my eye, I saw movement. A shadow slipping back into the darkness, melting into the tunnel as if it had never been there. We didn't stop running until we were back at my house, panting, shaking, slamming the door behind us. Neither of us spoke for a long time, but we both knew something had been down there. Something had seen us. And worst of all, later that night, as I lay in bed, my ears still ringing from the tunnel's silence, I heard it again. The rhythmic tapping, tap, tap, tap. This time, it was coming from just outside my window. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Slowly, ever so slowly, I turned my head. The moonlight cast long shadows across my room, but one stood apart from the rest. Taller, closer, and then, the tapping stopped only to be replaced by the sound of my closet door creaking open. A cold sweat broke out across my skin as my body locked up, every nerve screaming at me to run, but I couldn't move. My breath came in shallow, uneven gasps, my chest tightening as an unseen presence seemed to fill the room. The darkness inside the closet stretched impossibly deep, swallowing the dim moonlight. I wanted to turn away, to close my eyes, and pretend I hadn't heard it, but something told me that whatever was inside was staring right back at me. It had let us go.